Welcome to Front Row with Michael J. Curtis.
Boss of all boss.
A podcast where we dive into the world of pop culture, politics, entertainment, and more.
Read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, Count 1. Court file number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's going on, people? Look, let's have a discussion. Verdict is in. We've had to look at this trial for some time now. We've been anticipating this, and let's be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not think this was going to be the outcome. I did not think we would see a guilty verdict in the case of Derek Chauvin. How do you say it? How do you say this man's name? Anyway, I didn't think we would see this, but former officer Derek Chauvin was actually convicted, not on 1 count, but 3 counts. Okay, and we just want to take a look and see what that actually means for him and what we were talking about and what we can look forward to. Okay, he was charged with second-degree unintentional murder. He was charged with third-degree murder. He was charged with second-degree manslaughter. Okay, he could face up to 40 years in prison for second-degree murder. He could face up to 25 years for third-degree murder and up to 10 years for second-degree manslaughter. With this, we have to be careful, and this is something that we have to also pay attention to coming forward. He has not been sentenced yet. Okay, so just because he's been found guilty does not necessarily mean he's going to serve all of that time that comes with all those charges. A judge can rule that he serves it concurrently. A judge can rule that he serves it consecutively. All right, and we're looking at this at a point in time where there's a former officer who's finally being charged. We will actually want to take a look back when this first started, and this first started happening when George Floyd was murdered, and that's what we'll see. And it was caught on tape by a young lady, and I want to find her name because she's 17 years old, and they're calling her a woman. That is a child. Okay, so a 17-year-old young lady who was black, who happened to be walking up on this scene, along with a off-duty paramedic, along with a number of other people who were seeing and watching, and onlookers who watched this man kneel on this man's neck until he became lifeless, until he was dead. Okay, so let's be clear. That's for a total of, I believe we were saying 8 minutes and 26 seconds, but the jury later found out at the trial that there's actually 9 minutes, I believe 24 or 26 seconds. So it's actually 9 minutes, not 8. And so in that case, you have his family, you have a young daughter who's now without her father. And a lot of people have had a few things to say about it, our president being one of them. Take a look at this.
Not just in passing. I spent time with him. I spent time with his little daughter, Gianna. You should see this beautiful child. I can only imagine the pressure and anxiety they're feeling. And so I waited till the jury was sequestered, and I called. They're a good family, and they're calling for peace and tranquility. no matter what that verdict is. I'm praying the verdict is the right verdict, which is, I think it's overwhelming in my view. I wouldn't say that, but the jury was sequestered now.
Caitlin Collins with us now from the White House. So Caitlin,
CNN. We want to make sure that the president is actually speaking is a very different contrast from a president who says it's great people on both sides and many sides in regards to Charlottesville and our former president, the former resident of the White House, who's saying that. So you have this officer. One thing that was very different about this particular trial is that the most damning evidence and testimony was coming from fellow police officers, fellow cops, the police chief that fired former officer Chauvin. So these were people who got up on the stand, who let people know there was no need for a knee to be in this man's neck, not only be in his neck, but be on his neck that long. As far as all of this goes, the defensive officer, Derek Chauvin, was appointed or attributed to drug use and saying that his death was attributed to fentanyl and a number of other things. This is coming from the medical examiner that is in office now in Minnesota. There was 2 independent medical examiners that helped the family hired to make sure that the true cause of death was noticed or was taken into account, and that made sure that these 2 men were charged. The medical examiner for that district, I want to say district or area or city, said it was attributed to drug use and fentanyl and things of that nature. And so this, what was very important, give me 1 second, I just want to make sure. What's very important about all of this, and I just want to for basketball friend to, I believe, another professional basketball player. We also want to be clear about what he has to deal with, or what he has had to deal with. For those of you just tuning in, we're going to replay this verdict.
Says they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, Count 1. Court file number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
Okay, so let's go. Let's cover Count 1. Okay, which is second-degree unintentional murder. He could face up to, wait a minute. Yeah, second-degree unintentional murder. He could face up to 40 years in prison for second-degree murder. We're going to keep going.
This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict, count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict, count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Okay, so let's be clear. Let's actually look at what these charges are identifying. So the second-degree unintentional murder charge was alleging. He's been convicted, so we can say that this is what happened. George, a second-degree unintentional murder charge alleges Chauvin caused Floyd's death without intent. I believe it was with intent, but we can keep going. Without intent, while committing or attempting to commit felony third-degree assault. In turn, third-degree assault is defined as intentional infliction of substantial bodily harm. The third-degree murder charge alleged Chauvin caused Floyd's death by perpetrating an act imminently dangerous to others in evincing, whatever that word is, a depraved mind without regard for human life. The second-degree manslaughter charge alleged Chauvin caused Floyd's death by culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or great bodily harm. You have to realize that this man was asked to get up off the neck of George Floyd numerous times by a number of different people and did not get up immediately. Even when paramedics arrived, he didn't immediately get up off the neck of George Floyd. Even when he had him handcuffed, he didn't get off of his neck. What has happened? And really, while we look at it and we say, okay, this man has been found guilty, we have to look at the tricks of the trade that was happening when this man was charged. We have to look at how the medical examiner looked to cover this up. We have to look at the fact that we have police officers. We still haven't looked at the rest of the police officers around this situation. We're just looking at Officer Chauvin, but understand there were multiple police officers on the scene. We see that from the video. So how is it possible that all these police officers were there along with an off-duty paramedic who's saying, listen, you cannot be on his neck that long? And they actually watched him go lifeless. And she testified at this trial. So we have to look at the fact that if this was not caught on video, would we be seeing a guilty verdict for this officer or former officer, someone who wore the blue? Because he was defended by different people, different experts, different unions, police unions coming out on his behalf. He was defended, and now we have a verdict in of guilty. And so I don't think this is the time to exhale, which is what a lot of us are doing. We're celebrating. I think that's cool. But at the same time, we have to ask the question to many of us, what does this mean going forward? Who do we have to hold accountable to make sure that he's getting the years that he's supposed to get, that he's making sure that we're not just keeping this from happening again in Minnesota, to keeping it from happening again in the country. So there's legislation in Congress for police reform that is being brought to the House and being brought to the Senate. We have questions. How does it get done? How does it get completed? And what are we doing here in the state of Wisconsin to make sure that this isn't happening? Down in Kenosha, the officer that shot the young man that is now paralyzed, and I can't believe I can't remember his name. The young man that is now paralyzed returned back to duty. So while we're celebrating former officer Derek Chauvin being found guilty, we have an officer that paralyzed the man who was getting in a vehicle with his children present, who shot and paralyzed him during this time. And now he's returned back to duty in Kenosha. So what are we doing now to keep things like this from happening in the future? I wish I had comments from you all because I don't see anything. Keep this all from happening in the future. It's very, very concerning. Let's take a look here at, again, how this, just how many officers we're looking at. So take a look at also how these, let's see here. How these officers, so there's about 4 officers that were arrested as a part of this. We don't know what their time will be. I'm going to keep a close watch. I don't have as much research. This happened like on the fly. I was trying not to talk about it. I have other plans to talk about other things today. But great news. He's been found guilty on 3 counts, 3 charges, 3 different counts. So, and I'm going to list them again. That is actually 2nd-degree unintentional murder, 3rd-degree murder, and 2nd-degree manslaughter. So those are all 3. With this, he could face up to 40 years in prison for 2nd-degree murder, up to 25 years in prison for 3rd-degree murder, and up to 10 years for 2nd-degree manslaughter. So at this time, there are people that have to be held accountable to make sure this man is sentenced to the time. And this is going to come from the judge. And these are things that, this is the way that our system is set up. It's going to look at priors. And I have the question, and I beg the question of, are we looking at the priors of crimes that he's committed? Are we looking at priors as far as the force that he's used as an officer? Are we looking at the different complaints that have come against him as an officer? Are we looking at just the fact that he's been convicted of a crime that we know that hasn't happened? So if he's coming into the courtroom with that understanding, with that standing, does that give him the opportunity to just keep moving, keep going? Give him 4 years of slap on the wrist and then we're just done? What does it say about his character? What does it say about the fact that, you know, if he's going to show up and be a police officer again, you know, because we've seen the fact they go from city to city, they go from state to state. When they've been fired from one force, they go to the next force. How do we keep this from happening again in other cities? We just heard a girl in Ohio, a young girl by age, 14, 15, she was just shot and killed in Ohio. So we have a couple of things to look at there. Congressman Jim Jordan is from Ohio. And so when we're looking at police reform and different legislation that's happening, that person who's from Ohio and now in the House of Representatives sitting on the committee, Judicial Committee, I believe, what does that mean for Ohio citizens to have a person like that represent them? So it's really concerning. And so we really have a couple of things to keep watch for, and to make sure that you keep watching it. It's not over, okay, until you see that man is sentenced and gone. I do want to point out the fact that you have a judge here who's saying, listen, I would rather not have political officials who are weighing in on a trial, and he was trying to keep kind of that political influence away. President Biden was very clear to say that he wanted to wait until the jury was sequestered before he said anything. But let's be clear, all of our elected officials should be watching. All of our elected officials should be taking note, and all of our elected officials should be trying to find some type of way to make sure that this never happens again. There are the senators of Minnesota, there's a governor of Minnesota, there's an attorney general, there's a number of different actions, but a number of different people in place. And we have to make sure that this isn't happening across the nation. And that happens with policy, okay? If you don't have policy, you don't have nothing, okay? You can go with this, and this is very nice, but it's all depending on the jury. It's all depending on what we see. And we shouldn't need to have this mountain of evidence, this overwhelming, as President Biden called it, overwhelming mountain of evidence. It's like we have an uphill when police officers are in the line of duty and they are shooting or have shot and killed someone, there's always this sense of the officer is right and until proven wrong. The officer is innocent until proven guilty, which I wish all of us had that opportunity. It is how our justice system is supposed to work. However, who speaks on behalf of the victim? And when we have a case like this, we oftentimes bring up what has happened with drug use, what has happened in past criminal activity to justify the death. And let's be very clear, there is in no way, in no instance, is our justice system set up for the police officers to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. It does not work that way, and it shouldn't. And so in no case should you have a police officer who just decides whenever they get ready to take the life of a civilian, somebody who they're sworn in to protect and to serve. So that's always something that we want to keep watch on. As we take a look closer at this case, we look for the Floyd family and hopes that monetarily, I believe they have already been taken care of. But let's look at and I don't think it's from the state yet. I think that's just from the outpouring out of the nation and in the world. But George Floyd, whether he knows it or not, has changed the world and has sparked a conversation. It really has been the tipping point of a conversation. I think that we started with people like, oh my God, Trayvon Martin. How did I forget his name? With names like Trayvon Martin, and that's the first name I can really remember. Trayvon Martin, and then ending or kind of coming up to a head with someone like George Floyd. Understand that there are many, 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 many names, and I'm going to miss all the names in between. But we have to be clear about making sure that list gets a lot smaller. Police shootings have increased, as well as others. Mass shootings across this country. And until we start getting real about the legislation that we put forward, until we start getting real about the things that we expect from police officers, then they're going to continue, not all of them, but some of them who are people who are not really there to serve and protect. Some of them will continue in the bad actors. We'll call them that. Bad actors will continue to do things like this. There's a story developing in Ohio, as I mentioned before, of a young teenage girl who was shot and killed by police just today. So I will bring you all that story, not today, but I will bring it at another time. It's probably going to be Thursday. Thursday, I'll bring you more. Wednesday, we sit down with the coaches where we discuss. We're going to discuss grief because in all of this, in everything that we're dealing with, whether it's COVID, whether it's police shootings, whether it's mass shootings, we have a nation that is grieving at an alarming and at a very heightened rate. And this is something that isn't so healthy for some to take in. There are people that have to speak about watching videos like this and the trauma that Black people go through having to see Black people gunned down and killed on video day in and day out. And it's actually taking a toll on the mindset and the psyche of Black America, and not just Black America, Black people around the world. I think in America, we sometimes think we have the monopoly on racism, and we don't. There are other countries where people are facing very similar issues, very similar problems, and we have to also stand in solidarity with them to make sure that these things are being addressed. But we cannot, as a country, say that we stand by citizens, say that we want to hold officers accountable, and we don't put it on paper. It just doesn't work. Until we can make these things black and white, until we can say you using this chokehold means that the qualified immunity, it will not cover you. Until we can say you killing an unarmed man does not fall under this guideline. Until we can say you neutralizing the life of someone and not making sure that you're considering everybody as a person, not making sure that you're serving and protecting as you've sworn to do, then we have to address your negligence. The same way we would do a doctor, the same way we would do an attorney, the same way we have those corrections in place for a number of other roles in fields where people place their lives in the hands of others. The same way a pilot cannot be intoxicated while flying a plane, or a driver can't be intoxicated while driving and kill someone. Then we also have to look at what we're allowing from our police force, what we're allowing from people who are sworn to protect and serve us, and then move forward in that way to make sure that the policy backs the public opinion, the policy backs public interest, as for the interest of the public, to make sure that the people that are killing us aren't the people that are sworn to serve and protect us. And that's just not, that's not okay. You shouldn't be nervous when a police officer pulls you over. Just shouldn't be. And so that's just what I wanted to cover. I didn't have a lot for y'all today. This was, I thought I was going to be talking about something different. Shout out to Big Lou. It's his birthday. Luther Vandross, Lewis as I call her. The voice. The best voice ever. He's up there with Whitney. I think they singing happy birthday. It's really cool. It's really cool. So shout out to the Floyd family. I'm happy for them. They were watching the verdict. And they were able to see justice be served. So that was very, very cool. Y'all, I'm going to get up out of here. I didn't want to keep you long. It's 7:26. We started at 7. I'm going to end it out at 7:30. I'll be at This Is It on Wells, downtown. Let me make sure I get that information for y'all to pull it up so that you can see it. Give me 1 second. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. This is it, Milwaukee. This is it. Okay, this is it. I'll be at This Is It on April 28th. That's 418 East Wells Street. Please make sure you come out and check us out. I'll be doing some comedy. So if you've never seen me, if you never had the opportunity to see me, I just want you to know that that's where I'll be. So if you want to show up, if you want to show out, if you want to have some fun, tips are accepted. Tips are accepted. Okay, there'll be a bucket walking around. If y'all love me like you say you do, tips are accepted. Okay, so make sure y'all bring your tips out. I'm not stripping. Okay, but if you bring your tips, I'll show a little skin. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, again, that's going to be at This Is It at 418 East Wells Street, April 28th. The show starts at 10, but I want y'all to be there a lot earlier than that so y'all can have fun. I want y'all to have fun, enjoy yourself, have some fun. Have a lot of fun, okay? I'll be in the building. We'll be enjoying each other. Again, this is it at 418 East Wells Street. That's 418 East Wells. It's going to happen April 28th. Again, that's April 28th. I will be bringing you more information. April 28th. That is a Wednesday. April 28th. Come out. Have some fun with us. Enjoy yourself. Again, celebrate with the Floyd family. We want to thank them for their continued grace through this time. They could have been very upset. They could have incited violence, but they did not. They have chosen peace, as we often do. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I probably would have chose violence. But anyway, they have chosen peace. The verdict is in. Derek Chauvin has been found guilty on all 3 counts. He's been found guilty on all 3 counts. We are still waiting for sentencing to find out how long, what his death to society will be. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you all later. Love you.
What's everyone saying about Front Row with Michael J. Curtis?
It's super funny. I love it. It's the only podcast I listen to.
Listen, my whole family loves it, man.
At itsacourtesy.com.